Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I would like to welcome everybody who is here. Sister Laurel, Sister Munira, and I can only read the names, so please forgive me if you're logging in with a different name than you would like to be addressed as. Brother Muhammad, Sister Rashida, Brother Abdul Ghani, Sister Sarah, Brother Abdul Razak, and there is MA5, so I don't know who that is. Brother Abdul Qadir, Brother Mukhtar, thank you. Thank you for joining, and Brother Mukhtar and everybody, welcome.
First of all, with the Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May blessing and mercy of Allah be upon all of you and all over the world. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa qada rabbuka alla ta'budu illa iyyahu wa bil walidayni ihsana. Imma yablughanna indakal kibaru ahaduhuma aw kilahuma fala taqul lahumā uffin wa la tanharhumā wa qul lahumā qawlan karīmā wakhfid lahumā janāha adh-dhulli min ar-rahmah wa qul rabbirhamhumā kamā rabbayānī saghīrā. Sadaqallahul aliyyul azim. Allah says in Holy Quran, Surah Bani Israel, and your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him only, and that you be dutiful to your parents. If one of them or both attain old age in your life, say not to them a word of disrespect, nor shout at them, but address them with honor. Sadaqallahul aliyyul azim. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bless us with peace and prosperity. Oh Allah, remove this pandemic from whole of the earth. Oh Allah, encourage those people who are serving others. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar. Rabbi ij'alni muqimas salati wa min zurriyati. Rabbana wa taqabbal du'a. Rabbana ighfirli wa liwalidayya wa lil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. Sadaqallahul aliyyul azim. Ameen ya rabbal alameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair. I would like to welcome everybody again. This event is presented by MAS-SSF, Muslim American Society Social Services Foundation, by Al-Afia for Seniors program, where we are trying to present useful information for our seniors in the community and just develop more ability for seniors to connect with each other. I would like to welcome all of you, and I would like to request that if you would please turn on your videos if possible, it would allow us to see who's attending and be able to connect better. So if you feel comfortable, please do turn on your videos. Also, we have a presentation today from Legal Services, and I will introduce them, but I wanted to let everybody know that if anybody needs translation in Urdu or Arabic, we're able to do that. Please let us know if you need either of the translations, and we will send, when the presentation starts, we'll send you to separate rooms so you can listen to the presentations in either of those languages. Please raise your hands or let us know in the chat if you need those translations. Also, after the presentation is, please hold your questions for Patrick and Hadley until the end of the presentation. And once the presentation has ended, the question and answers have ended, we would like to have an open floor for anybody who wants to say something, share something. How are you dealing with staying home? How are you dealing with the situation with COVID-19? If you have any advice for other people, please let me know, and we'll let you, we'll unmute your mics and we will allow you to share those experiences with you. or if you have any jokes, anything that you would like to share, please let us know. Also at the end, we have a raffle. So we'll take your names and then we'll write your names and then we will draw a raffle at the end, and we will be drawing, depending on how many attendees we have, either 2 or 3 raffle prizes, and we will send those to you by email. So if you win a raffle prize, you'll have to send us your email so we can send the gift cards, their target gift cards that we can send you by email. With that, I would like to present Hadley Rood. She's a summer law clerk at Legal Services of Northern California. Legal Services of Northern California is a nonprofit law firm that provides free legal services to clients experiencing poverty or who are otherwise from vulnerable populations. Hadley graduated from UC Davis in 2018 and will be starting her second year at UC Berkeley School of Law in August. After finishing law school, Hadley hopes to go into public interest law. Born and raised in Sacramento area, Hadley is a fan of all Northern California sports teams, but especially of the San Francisco Giants. What, not 49ers? With that, I'd like to introduce Hadley Rood and Patrick Ting. Patrick, I would like you to introduce yourself, please. And I'm turning the floor over to you both. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. My name is Patrick Ting, and I'm an attorney with Legal Services of Northern California. Specifically, I supervise our Senior Legal Hotline program, and that is a special project here in Sacramento County that serves older adults who are age 60 years and over, who live in the county, and there are a couple of other eligibility requirements, but we encourage folks who live in the county of all income levels, all asset levels, to give us a call. Later on in our presentation, Hadley is going to give a brief overview of some of the areas of law that we cover and that we practice. Obviously today we have a specific focus of our presentation, but at the end of our presentation we are also going to have our contact information and talk a little bit about kind of our intake process, which unfortunately has changed a little bit, obviously due to COVID-19. We're working remotely like a lot of other organizations are, but we're still operating at a full capacity, and so folks are still able to contact us by phone. We have email intakes and things like that. But today, I am planning on being mostly part of the audience. Hadley is going to be our primary presenter, and so I'm just going to be sitting here and learning a couple of things, and occasionally I'll jump in potentially as well. So I will turn it over to Hadley, who hopefully can share her screen and get us started.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Maha and Patrick. I will go ahead and share my screen and start the presentation. Okay. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. A few things before we get started. I do ask that anyone who has a question either type that question into the chat or hold that question until the end, so we're able to answer any and all questions regarding the presentation at the end. In addition to that, Patrick and I are not able to give any legal advice at this time, and this presentation is meant to present accurate legal information. So if you have a general question about the presentation or a clarifying question, such as is it true that you need 2 witnesses to sign a power of attorney? We would be happy to answer that. However, any specific questions about your individual situation would need to be answered not at this time, but rather if you call our offices for an intake with an attorney. So those would be questions like, I have a power of attorney and my agent is doing this, is that legal? That question would be better answered if you call our offices and discuss with an attorney. And as Patrick said, we will have our contact information at the end of the presentation, and we strongly encourage anyone who has particular questions to reach out to us. So a brief outline of the presentation. First, I'll talk a little bit about Legal Services of Northern California, and particularly the Senior Legal Hotline. I'll touch briefly on why advanced planning is important, and then go through advanced healthcare directives and powers of attorney. And once again, if you have questions at any time, feel free to type them into the chat or save them until the end. So, Legal Services of Northern California. Our mission is to provide quality legal services to empower the poor to identify and defeat the causes and effects of poverty within our community, efficiently utilizing all available resources. Essentially, what this means is we are a nonprofit law firm with attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants, etc. And our mission is one of anti-poverty. However, as Patrick mentioned, not all of the groups that we service are experiencing poverty, and we do have several special projects, including our Senior Legal Hotline, that provides assistance to older adults who may be isolated or otherwise in need of legal services. If you have any questions about whether you might qualify for our services or if your issue is something that we could advise on, please give us a call and we can walk you through the intake process and evaluate from there. As you can see, Legal Services of Northern California can assist on many different issues affecting our community. These range from housing, public benefits, to consumer matters such as debt, elder abuse, which is not limited to only physical abuse. It can also include financial abuse or deprivation of property, estate and advanced planning matters such as what we're discussing today, health issues, education, and pensions. Listed on this slide are several examples of all of these different issues that we do cover. But once again, if you have a question as to whether the issue you're experiencing is covered under one of these umbrellas, please reach out to us and we can help evaluate from there. Now, why is advanced planning so important? Advanced planning can help avoid the conservatorship process. And basically, the conservatorship process involves a court getting involved and appointing someone to manage another's financial and personal choices. This process can remove individual choice and rights, and it is complicated and expensive. It can lead to differences in who should manage your choices and what your wishes might be. An advanced healthcare directive can help prevent conservatorships and can also make sure that your wishes are fulfilled. I also realize that the bottom of our slides may be cut off during this presentation. I do apologize for that, and I will try and make sure to read the bottom portions of the slides to make sure you're able to get all the information presented today. So, an advanced healthcare directive is a document that grants someone powers to make healthcare decisions for you in case you become incapacitated. The advanced healthcare directive form is very flexible and allows you to narrowly tailor the directive to your specific needs and wishes. The basic steps to creating an advanced healthcare directive are to fill out the form, which consists of 6 different parts, and to sign the form and ensure that witnesses sign the form as well. Another common question with advanced healthcare directives is whether they extend past a person's death. And unlike powers of attorney, an advanced healthcare directive can extend to include disposition of remains and other burial directions. So you would be able to lay that out in the advanced healthcare directive as well. Part 1 of the Advanced Healthcare Directive is to select an agent to make your healthcare decisions. Your agent can be anyone you would like, a relative, spouse, friend, or anyone trusted to make healthcare decisions. However, an agent cannot be someone connected to an institution where you live or a healthcare provider. Under this part, you can also select alternative agents in case your primary agent cannot be found, and you can specify people who you do not want to make healthcare decisions for you. Part 2 of the Healthcare Directive is where you would lay out your instructions for healthcare. Once again, this section is very flexible and allows you to very specifically think through and plan out what your instructions for healthcare might be. You can describe your treatment wishes in the event of incapacitation, and you are also free to attach additional documentation describing treatments in more detail. Part 3 involves organ donation and allows you to consider whether you would like to be an organ donor. Part 4 is the election of a primary physician and others who may be consulted. This would come into play if the primary physician were required to confirm that you no longer had capacity to make your own healthcare decisions. Part 5 of the healthcare directive is the nomination of a conservator. In the event that a conservator is still necessary in your situation, you can nominate one for the court to consider. This does not mean that the court will automatically accept this person as the conservator, as the final decision is left to the court. But it can be good to nominate someone to help facilitate the process should it be necessary. Lastly, Part 6 involves your signature and witnesses. The Advanced Healthcare Directive must be notarized or signed by at least 2 witnesses. The witnesses cannot be the person's doctor or an employee of your doctor, an operator of certain healthcare facilities or an employee of those healthcare facilities, or the agent that you nominate in your Advanced Healthcare Directive. Additionally, at least one of the witnesses must not be related by blood, marriage, or adoption, or be entitled to any portion of the estate when it's executed. If the patient is in a skilled nursing facility, the Advanced Healthcare Directive must be signed by a patient advocate or ombudsman, either as one of the 2 witnesses or as a signature in addition to notarization. You can revoke an Advanced Healthcare Directive. In order to revoke, you must first complete a new Advanced Healthcare Directive, let the former agent know if you're appointing a new agent, and provide the new copies to doctors, nursing homes, families, family members, and your new agent. In addition, you may need a HIPAA authorization or release to help facilitate the process of your new agent contacting the hospital regarding your medical information. It is true that an Advanced Healthcare Directive, a new Advanced Healthcare Directive that you make will revoke a prior Advanced Healthcare Directive to the extent that there's a conflict between the 2. However, in order to avoid confusion, it's best to completely revoke the old Advanced Healthcare Directive before creating a new one. There are some other considerations with an Advanced Healthcare Directive. As I mentioned, it is recommended to also complete a HIPAA authorization for your agent. This would help facilitate your agent's ability to contact a hospital or other care provider and obtain your medical information. Additionally, there is another form called Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. This form describes whether you would like life-sustaining treatment, including CPR and/or hospitalization. This form, unlike the Advanced Healthcare Directive, must be signed by the physician. It supplements but does not replace the Advanced Healthcare Directive. Lastly, after completing an Advanced Healthcare Directive, you may want to register this AHCD with the Secretary of State Advanced Healthcare Directive Registry. This can help in the event that a hospital or other care provider needs to find or contact your agent. They are required to make all reasonable efforts to find your agent, and this can include contacting the Secretary of State to see if there's an Advanced Healthcare Directive on file. And one last thing with the Advanced Healthcare Directive, you may be able to revoke all or part of the Advanced Healthcare Directive orally or in writing, but any permanent changes should be made in writing. Moving on to the power of attorney. A power of attorney is a document that grants someone powers to make financial decisions for you in case you become incapacitated. This is separate from an advanced healthcare directive, which appoints someone to make health decisions for you. There are different powers of attorney available depending on your situation and what you wish the scope of the power of attorney to be. These include a springing power of attorney, which only becomes effective upon the happening of an event. In this case, someone may be required to certify that the event has taken place and that the power of attorney can take effect. An immediate power of attorney becomes effective as soon as it is signed. Additionally, a general power of attorney will only take effect while you have capacity, whereas a durable power of attorney continues even if you are to become incapacitated. And you can evaluate your own situation and what your wishes are and design your power of attorney to effectuate those wishes. A power of attorney is a powerful document. It gives someone else, an agent, control over your finances and property. The statutes regarding power of attorney do allow for a great amount of flexibility and allow you to make your power of attorney as broad or as narrow as your needs. And once again, it's good to closely consider your situation and what your wishes are as you design your power of attorney. To execute a power of attorney, it must be a written document that contains the date of execution. In addition, it must be signed by the principal, which would be you, or alternately, it can be signed in the principal's name by another adult in the principal's presence and at their direction. Like an advanced healthcare directive, the power of attorney must be acknowledged by a notary or signed by 2 witnesses. The witness requirements are that the witnesses must be adults, they must not be the agent presented by the power of attorney, and they must either directly witness or acknowledge the signing. In addition, a durable power of attorney, which is a power of attorney that continues even if the principal becomes incapacitated, must contain additional language as laid out in the statute. An agent's obligations, if they're appointed by a power of attorney, are basic fiduciary obligations. They must act solely in the interest of the principal and avoid conflicts of interest with the principal. The agent's and principal's property cannot commingle and must be kept entirely separate. Additionally, an agent may not transfer property to themselves without full and adequate consideration unless the power of attorney authorizes the agent to transfer property to the agent or to accept a gift. Some other obligations include frequent communication with the principal and keeping a record of all transactions the agent makes on the principal's behalf. Now, as I stated previously, a power of attorney is a powerful document. This can open a power of attorney up to potential abuse. Such abuse can include exceeding the scope of authority defined in the power of attorney, or self-dealing, or otherwise acting against the principal's interests. Examples of this could include a situation in which an agent is appointed and allowed to control or make decisions regarding bank accounts or other finances, and they could potentially drain those accounts. In addition, another example could be a situation where the principal would be potentially in a skilled nursing facility or otherwise out of the home, and the agent may attempt to sell the home while the principal is not present or even out from under the principal. Because of the power included in this document and its sort of openness to potential abuse, it is important to narrowly tailor the power of attorney to exactly what your wishes are. Of course, if the agent does abuse the power of attorney, they are liable and can be charged, but only if they are caught. So these are important considerations to make when you are creating a power of attorney. You may terminate a power of attorney. either by revoking the power of attorney with written notice, or if the power of attorney lays out a situation in which it will be terminated. If the principal has capacity, they may revoke the document in writing and may revoke either the entire power of attorney or just the agent, the authority of the agent. Probate Code Section 4151 lays out the ways in which you may terminate a power of attorney. If the principal does not have capacity, a power of attorney can still be revoked through a conservatorship. Additionally, a non-durable power of attorney will be revoked automatically if the principal becomes incapacitated. Lastly, most powers of attorney are terminated upon the death of the principal, and rights do not extend, or an agent's authority does not extend after the death of the principal. In order to fully terminate or revoke a power of attorney, it is recommended that you revoke the power of attorney in writing, get the document notarized, and inform the agent in writing, as well as contacting any third party. It is important to inform the agent and any third party about a revocation of a power of attorney, as agents or third parties who are not aware of a revocation are usually not held liable for acting in reliance on the power of attorney. That just about wraps up the information that we had for you. Here is the contact information for the Senior Legal Hotline. And as Patrick described earlier, the basic requirements to qualify for the Senior Legal Hotline are that the individual be 60 or more years old and that they are a Sacramento County resident. You can call our number at 916-551-2140 in order to schedule a phone intake. Additionally, we have a toll-free number at 800-222-1753. If you are deaf or hard of hearing, you can contact us via email at lsnc.slh@lsnc.net. When you call into our hotline, it is on a first-come, first-served basis, so we recommend calling in early in the morning if possible. We also have some contact information for our larger legal services of Northern California. Here is our main address listed, as well as our website and an email for you to contact if you wish to set up an intake and you are deaf or hard of hearing. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to noon and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. We do housing and public benefits intakes on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Our Senior Legal Hotline intakes occur Monday through Friday. Education law intakes are varied, so please call to inquire about those. We also assess clients for potential criminal record expungements, and the number for that is 866-815-5990. We can perform intakes outside of normal business hours if you call and request that as well. And you're welcome to call regarding other civil legal issues and inquire as to whether we will be able to advise you on those. That completes the presentation. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, and Patrick and I can take any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
My name is Muhammad Ibrahim. Probably you're seeing my name on Muhammad on screen. I have a simple question. Suppose if someone doesn't carry this advanced care directive, what problems the family is going to face when the person becomes incapacitated?
So I'm sorry, the phone might have cut out. So if you said that a person does not have an advanced healthcare directive and they become incapacitated, so that, you know, oftentimes that could be problematic, right? Like if, you know, if somebody does not have a healthcare directive, let's say they're married, they have a spouse, then usually the hospital or the doctor has an obligation. Like, let's say if you go into the emergency room or if you go in and to get some treatment and you become incapacitated, the hospital has an obligation to try to find out maybe who your next of kin is or your spouse is, and go from there. But if there are disputes among family members, right, which as we know, it unfortunately can happen frequently. Generally our office, we recommend that it's a good idea to have this advanced healthcare directive, because it allows you to do a lot of make a lot of really specific decisions. You set forth, okay, this is what I want my treatment to be. This is also what I do not want my treatment to be. I don't want the doctors to do this. I don't want the doctors to do that. And I want my agent to be this person specifically. And I definitely do not want these people making decisions on my behalf. You can sort of lay out who you do not want the doctors to listen to, and that really makes it very clear, when the doctors are relying on that advanced healthcare directive. It's very specific, who they listen to, and also what treatments they should engage in, because you've already directed that in the document. So I think it's generally just good practice. Of course, without it, they can still try to locate next of kin. They can try to locate spouses. But as we all know, sometimes family just they don't always agree, and it can be kind of messy.
Yeah. Thank you for your. I have a small doubt for that. Whenever I go to the hospital on the front desk, I fill up the form that you can contact my emergency number. I'll give my son, my wife. Will it not work for the advanced healthcare directive?
So in your specific situation, I don't want to get too direct, right? Because this is a recorded presentation, and I don't want to talk very specifically about your confidential information. So I recommend that you call us. But what I can say generally is, again, it's a good idea to have this kind of document. I mean, hospitals oftentimes, they will have emergency contact information, right? Like you give them, some phone numbers or addresses of like family members and things like that, and they will try to contact your emergency contact. But sometimes if a person is incapacitated for some time, right? Let's say you go to the hospital, you have to stay in the emergency room for a little bit of time, you have to get treatment for some weeks or some months, and the hospital has to change their treatment course. They have to ask questions about, okay, should we recommend this type of treatment? Will the patient, agree to this? Is this okay? Do we get consent? Then it starts to become kind of hazy, right? And then, maybe the emergency contact, is that person in emergency contact just for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, a couple of months? Then it becomes much clearer if there is a healthcare directive that, the doctor in the hospital, to the extent that is legal and possible, they should, follow the patient's directions in that healthcare directive.
Thank you very much. I appreciate for your answers. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If anybody has any question, you can unmute yourself and ask it directly, or write it down in the chat. I have a couple of clarifications that somebody's asking for you to elaborate on the principle has capacity that Hadley was talking about. Just to talk about it in more like a simpler terminology, so people can understand what it is, and about the conservatorship as well. If you can talk more about those.
Sure. So capacity is a kind of a legal term of art, or a legal term, and essentially it just means that somebody has the ability to make their own decisions, right? Like, so when we talk about capacity, it's not necessarily a very high bar, but it's just that somebody understands what they're doing and the consequences of their decisions, and that they have, there's kind of this standard where, for example, if you want a power of attorney, you should understand what you're signing. You should understand the authority that you're giving to the person that you select as your agent, and you should understand the limits of that authority and what a powerful document it is, right? So it's kind of it's a general understanding of your decisions and what you're doing. Same thing with the Advanced Healthcare Directive. You know, in under the law, we have this kind of concept of capacity to create and enter into a contract, right? And this is kind of a similar standard or definition. So when you go out and maybe you buy something, or you buy a car, or even go to the store, right? Generally, you understand that you're engaging in, you're entering into some kind of a contract for like an exchange of some kind of services or goods, and it's similar in this instance. So that's what we mean by capacity. So when you execute these documents as the principal, the person giving these authorities, you should have capacity to enter into these agreements. And then also, when we talk about losing capacity, right, for a power of attorney or an advanced healthcare directive, what if you no longer have the capacity to understand, what it means to, for example, in a power of attorney, if you can no longer manage your own finances, right, or if you can no longer, pay your rent or manage your real estate or enter into sort of legal transactions, generally speaking, that's usually the event that necessitates one of these documents. So when you have capacity, that's when you execute it and you create these documents, just in case later on you lose capacity. Then if a doctor says, well, this is my patient, they can no longer make their own decisions, then that helps to avoid, fighting among like friends or family members, like saying like, I'm the person that makes the decision. I'm the person that this is what's best for, my mom or my dad or my sister, brother, friend. Instead of people fighting, there's one person who's like, I have this document. When my mom was still had full capacity, she wanted me to make these decisions, and these are the decisions that I can make on my parents' behalf. And so hopefully that was clear. And I'll talk a little bit about conservatorships as well. So generally speaking, a conservatorship it's a court proceeding. And it's a very invasive court case or court proceeding where somebody has to go to a court and say, for example, if it's in my situation, they might say, I do not believe Patrick has the capacity. I do not believe that Patrick understands what he's doing. He doesn't understand how to care for himself. He doesn't understand how to manage his own finances. He might be, at risk of harming himself. I think that a court needs to step in and appoint somebody called a conservator to make Patrick's decisions for him about maybe his finances, or where he gets to live, the type of treatment that medical treatment that he needs. And in situations like that, if somebody does not have a power of attorney or does not have an advanced healthcare directive, there's no documentation or there's no good evidence about who they want to make these decisions on their behalf, right? So then of course, all the fighting starts, and then somebody might actually start a court case. They might go to court and file a petition to say, you know what, let's get a judge involved. And in that case, depending on what happens, the judge might appoint a conservator who has no relation, for example, in the same case, to me, right? They might just say, you know what, I think that we're going to appoint this professional company, this professional fiduciary to serve as Patrick's conservator. And in that case, I would lose a lot of my rights, because then there's a court proceeding that says Patrick can no longer make his own decisions. This other person is making his decisions for him. And we've seen cases where, people don't think they need to be conserved, or we've seen cases where family members are really, really upset, spouses, family members, because the court appointed a conservator, and then there's disputes about whether the conservator is actually, doing everything in the person's best interest, right? So the powers of attorney and the advanced healthcare directives, they are ways for you to not always avoid conservatorships, because sometimes people will file those court cases anyway, right? There's still going to be squabbles. But if you have a power of attorney, laid out and it's properly executed, and you have an advanced healthcare directive, at least you're telling, your agents, you're telling your doctors, you're telling your banks, maybe your landlord or your whoever you're dealing with, right? That I, at this time, have capacity. these are the people I want to make decisions. If I can no longer make decisions on my own behalf, listen to these people, and it lessens the chance that, you know, you get into a situation where a court determines who makes decisions for you.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. I hope it's clear to everyone. And let me see, there is a question about the do not resuscitate, and how can a person change it if they are in the hospital?
So the do not resuscitate, or the DNR form, we briefly touched on that earlier, which is, it's also called the Physician Order on Life-Sustaining Treatment form, or the POLST. And that's, you know, in situations where, like, you're you know, unfortunately kind of like on your last legs, right? You know, it's basically a form that you actually discuss with your doctor beforehand, right? Right now, you know, now that we're all in this presentation, we're all listening, we all can make our own decisions, right? So right now is the time to discuss it with your doctor, to say, hey, look, you know, if I'm, you know, in a situation where I need life-sustaining treatment, if I'm on, you know, the verge of death, unfortunately, these are my instructions for you, specifically for my doctor. And that form is something that, you know, it has to be signed by a physician. It's to, as Hadley mentioned earlier, to supplement an advanced healthcare directive, which describes, like, treatments, other types of medical treatments, right? So the two forms are meant to be used together in conjunction. The you know, DNR form is just something that, you know, unfortunately you can't do it yourself. It has to be something you discuss with the doctor, and then you might want, you know, your doctor should have a copy of that. You might want to keep, like, maybe a copy of that on your person at all times, maybe in your wallet or purse or bag or whatever it is. You might want to keep a copy of your advanced healthcare directive on you at all times as well, in case you're traveling to, you know, a different city or something like that. Hadley said, you know, it can be recorded with the Secretary of State. And so the forms, you know, they're different, they're slightly different, but they complement each other. And I'm sorry, to change it, if, you know, to change that the DNR wishes, right, just talk to your doctor.
Okay, thank you. And someone, let me see, someone asked, I would like to know about the requirement and process to having a will regarding wealth and property.
That is certainly something that we can talk about. We have an entire presentation on you know, the disposition of your property and your wealth after you die, right? So today's presentation, it was about what's called advanced planning. What happens to your health and your property during your lifetime if you can no longer make your own decisions, right? And that's the Advanced Healthcare Directive, the DNR form, the powers of attorney. Now, we have an entire presentation, and I will, you know, we're happy to talk about that at a different time, but just generally speaking, what happens to your property after your death? Well, the forms that we talked about, they don't do anything after your death. The only limited circumstance is that, you know, your agent under an advanced healthcare directive gets some say about where you are to be buried, you know, upon your death. But that's the extent of it. If you have a power of attorney, right, that talks about your finances and your real property and your personal property and all that, once you die, that power of attorney has no effect. It's not even worth the paper that it's printed on, right? So, you know, to determine what happens to your property after your death, you should have a will, right, or a trust. You know, there are certain types of documents that you can use to write down your wishes for who you want to, you know, handle your estate upon your death, right, and how you want your property to be distributed, who you want your property to go to, who you want your property not to go to. And so that's a topic for a whole other presentation. In our office, we do advise a little bit about estate planning. We do not draft trusts. So a trust is like a more complex document that, you know, talks a little bit about estate planning as well as kind of what happens to your property during your lifetime. So we don't draft trusts, but we have a lot of these simple forms. So something that I think is really important to mention today also is that advanced healthcare directives, powers of attorney, and also simple will forms, our office, we have those forms for people. We don't just give them out. because people have to come in and our attorneys or our advocates actually have to talk to somebody, right? We have to see what their wishes are. We also have to kind of, make an assessment of whether they might have capacity to execute these documents. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, you generally have to have capacity to execute any of these documents. You have to understand what you're doing. But we do send these forms out to people when we determine that it might be might be what they need. And there are these simple forms that people can just fill out themselves. They can execute themselves, and they are completely legally sufficient. And so and our services are entirely free, right? So we send out kind of the basic forms. Now, if you have a lot of money or a lot of different properties and assets and it becomes really complex, then sometimes we'll tell folks, hey, it might be worth it for you to contact, a private attorney who just only does this type of work, because then they might be able to sit down with you over the course of a couple of hours, figure out, inventory your assets and your property and figure out the best way so that the attorney who does this work, all day, or for many years, then they can draft something that's very specific to you. But if you just want something to kind of protect yourself and you think that your estate is really simple, or you want something to draft right now, in the meantime, right before maybe you consult with, a private attorney that you might pay money to later on, we recommend giving us a call, and then we can at the very least talk to folks about what might be appropriate. But in terms of estate planning, wills, trusts, things like that, again, we have a separate presentation, and we also advise people about that when they contact our office.
That's excellent. Yeah, definitely. And we have the information and we'll share them as well at the end. There is also, when it comes to advanced directive, is it possible to have more than one person on the directive to make the decision on behalf of the person, or what do you suggest?
Yes, but generally for advanced directives and powers of attorney, we do not suggest having more than one person at a time. So what you can do usually is you can designate like your first in line agent, right? You can say, I want my spouse to be my agent. But if my spouse is not available or unable to serve as the agent, the alternate agent is my sibling, right? And if my sibling is not able to serve, then my second alternate, the third person is whomever. So, generally, our office, we recommend that you have sort of alternates or successors. If the first person is not able to, then the second person. If the second person is not able to, then the third person. So that way, it eliminates this problem of like people sort of fighting with each other. Because if everybody has the authority at the same time, maybe they all agree, but I don't know about everybody who's listening here, but I know my family, they would certainly not agree, and I've seen situations in my own family where, if there's no document, if everybody thinks that they know what's best for somebody, it's not always a pretty situation, right? So yeah, I guess that to answer the question, alternate agents are probably a better way to go about this.
Assalamu alaikum, Maha. I have something to comment if you're okay.
Go ahead.
So regarding this question specifically, my family went through a situation where several of the family members were hospitalized or incapacitated, either physically or mentally. And so we went through this trying to figure out who's making the decisions or who's the emergency contact person, because all the emergency contact persons or all the people that were supposed to be making the decisions, like I said, were either hospitalized or incapacitated. And so I think that it might be important to have several people on there, even if you have to list them as we are number one or number two or number three, to make the decisions. And even in the emergency contact forms at the hospital or anywhere else. And also the other thing to make sure, from my experience, is that those people don't all live in the same family. That would be really helpful, and that's something that I've experienced personally.
Yeah, that's a great point. Completely agree. sometimes it's a good idea to, you know, make it so, like you said, you know, people aren't all in the same place from the same family. Unfortunately, especially now that we're, you know, the world is experiencing this pandemic, right, of this disease that is so scary, that can move so quickly, you know, to incapacitate or unfortunately even, you know, kill people so quickly, that it might be a good idea to sort of diversify these. You know, your first agent might be your family member, your second agent might be your friend, you know, who lives in a different, you may be like in a different part of the city or a different part of the county or something like that. That's a great point.
Any other questions? I have one question regarding the form, the advanced directive form. Does the person need to use a specific form, or can you, write your own, like a handwritten, you know, of your wishes, and then what do I do in this situation in case I don't want to follow, you know, the regular form?
So my understanding, and I haven't actually looked into this very specifically recently, is that, you know, people can probably draft their own instructions as long as the, you know, the execution of the document follows all of the legal procedures, right? Like, you know, as long as they write down, you know, these are my wishes, and they sign it and two witnesses sign it. We don't really recommend that, quite frankly, because I mean, the forms are so easy to access, right? Like, we have the forms, and the forms that we have actually are forms that were created by the legislature, the California State Legislature, to make it easy for people to fill it out, you know, to make it easy for people to properly execute it. Now, attorneys, you know, sometimes attorneys draft their own advanced healthcare directives or their own powers of attorney, you know, when they specifically talk one-on-one to a client, and they don't follow, you know, the legislature's format, right, like for these simple forms. I think my recommendation always is, if you're able to you know, either speak with an attorney who you know, specializes in these areas of law to get personalized recommendations. If you're able to afford it, that might be an option, right? And if you're not able to afford it, you know, you can try to call our office, or you can try to find, you know, legal aid. I mean, legal aid. We're all licensed attorneys, right? We don't charge for our services, but, you know, we do the same work that that other, you know, attorneys that charge do. So we just recommend that folks, if they can, whether to consult with an attorney they have to pay for, an attorney they don't have to pay for, or low cost, or whatever it is, that if they can, they should get some legal advice, because the idea is that you don't want to make any mistakes in what you draft or in how you execute the forms, because any like little mistakes, unfortunately, you know, if there are some errors or something like that, you know, they might invalidate the whole form, and third parties might not rely on the forms then.
Okay. And one more, when does the appointed person make decision on my behalf, you know, with the advanced directive?
So generally speaking, as Hadley mentioned earlier, the forms themselves, the point of the Advanced Healthcare Directive is, so there's twofold, right? The two major points are, one, you designate an agent to whom you trust to make healthcare decisions on your behalf, most often when you are not able to make those decisions. So if you have to go to the emergency room and, you know, you cannot communicate with your doctor, right? Or if you, I don't know, you know, there are some complications from a major medical procedure or surgery or something like that, and suddenly you're not able to communicate with your doctor, well, then your agent is able to step in, right? And also the form that you fill out itself also you should think about the types of treatments that you want and the types of treatments that you don't want, the type of care, right? Pain management, things like that, where, you know, sometimes the doctor can just take a look at the form and say, oh, you know, actually this person does not want this kind of pain management, does not want this kind of palliative care. And, you know, your agent is also presumed to be the person whom kind of knows you the best and knows exactly what you want, even if there's something that you didn't quite, lay out in the Advanced Healthcare Directive, right? So you know, as for when your agent has that authority, usually the most often circumstance is just when you can't communicate with your doctor, and that's when your doctor is supposed to, you know, make all reasonable efforts to find out whether you have family members, right? Find out whether you have agents and whether you have an Advanced Healthcare Directive, and you know, figure out what's best for you based on all of those alternate documents and family members and care options.
Thank you. And when, you know, how do you suggest, I'm sure you went through a lot of these advanced directive forms, and many people came to you, but what is your suggestion to approach the subject with the loved ones and talk about it, since, you know, it's always that like end of life planning, you know, it is very critical, and it's hard for people to talk about. So, you know, if you can just, you know, give me your opinion.
Right. Well, that's an interesting question, right? Like, that's not, it's not really legal advice, I suppose, but it's, you know, when I talk to my clients, I think it's like you mentioned, it's a delicate subject, but I think one way that I've approached it, not only with my clients, but, you know, my parents, right, is just that it's important because you never know, you know, it's a tough subject to talk about, but you never know what's going to happen in the next hour or tomorrow or next month or whatever it is. And you want to be able to plan for these things just in case there is some kind of an emergency. You know, and I think in planning, many of us, we have friends or family members, you know, that maybe we don't get along with, but they're really close, right? Maybe, but we would not want that person or those people making decisions for us. And so I think, and we also have people that we really trust, whom we do want, you know, making those decisions and caring for us in times of emergency and in times where we're not able to make decisions. And so usually, you know, the way that I approach it is just, you know, it's good to have, you know, it's good to be prepared. It's a tough subject to think about. But if you're not prepared, sometimes it can lead to, you know, infighting. It can lead to situations where, you know, maybe somebody who's not you know, maybe has your best interest at heart, but doesn't really know what you want, you know, ends up making decisions for you, and you know, you don't want that. And in some cases, when it comes to powers of attorney, right, for your finances, that can be even more problematic, because with healthcare directives, or if you go to the ER and you're not able to make decisions, you know, doctors have an obligation to try to contact family members and friends and things like that. They should, even if you don't have a healthcare directive. They have an obligation to try to find a surrogate. And of course, there are issues with like release of healthcare information and things like that, but a doctor has an obligation to do that, or a hospital. But let's say you become incapacitated and you are no longer able to pay your rent, right? Or if you are no longer able to pay your credit card bills and things like that. Your landlord is not going to talk to your friend. Your landlord is not going to talk to your family member who's not on the lease. Your bank, your credit card company, they are not going to, you know, engage with people, and unless there is some kind of a document like a power of attorney in which you explicitly give, you know, another person authority to handle your finances or your property, you know, or certain legal affairs on your behalf. And if you don't have one of those, you know, we've seen situations where, you know, someone loses capacity and then they can't pay their rent, and they have issues, you know, staying in their rental unit, right? Or they have issues where suddenly they owe a ton of money to, you know, credit card company and or, you know, their mortgage company or whatever it is. And, you know, these companies they just refuse to engage with third parties. And that can be very problematic. So, you know, that's how I kind of approach it, talking to people, you know, letting them know it's just preparation is generally a good thing, even when it comes to matters that are difficult to talk about. And I think, you know, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, people might be more receptive now, right? Because the news is, you know, we're all working from home, you know, COVID is scary. You know, the coronavirus pandemic is scary. It's still going on, and if not now, then you know, when when are we going to think about being prepared? So, yeah.
For the power of attorney, is it, you know, can you make it limited, so you know, to make it easier, you know, so you are sure that the person whom you appointed are not gonna take over?
Yes, in fact, that's actually a very good point, and it's a very important point. You know, powers of attorney, there are all these different types of, you know, categories of authority that you can give to your agent. And so, you know, in certain situations, I mean, you can make it really, really broad, right? You can just say, I want my agent to have any authority that is provided for by law, that is allowed by law to do any and everything that they can do in case, you know, I no longer have the capacity. But you can also limit it. You can say, I only want my agent to deal with my bank accounts, or I only want my agent to deal with, you know, legal matters, but I do not want my agent to handle my my home or my real property or real estate matters. I do not give my agent the authority to, you know, handle my I don't know, like trusts or, you know, other types of property. You can limit it very, very specifically, and even on the standard forms, like the uniform, you know, standard statutory power of attorney forms that I talked about earlier, where the legislature created it. You're not drafting it yourself. You're just filling out information. Even the standard forms themselves, they have like, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 categories, where if you want your agent to have authority for a specific type of category, you initial it. You say, you know, I initial this part where I want my agent to have this authority. And if you don't want your agent to have, you know, a specific type of authority, you don't initial it, you know, there. And so it's very, very prudent to think about, you know, the type of authority, the different, you know, the scope of authority that you want your agent to have or your agent not to have, and go from there.
Thank
And
you.
Patrick,
Thank you, Patrick. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, it looks like there was one question in the chat. I'm not sure if we've addressed it, but it was a question of, if a client calls who does not speak English, would we be able to provide interpretation? And I believe that's correct. We would be able to do that, right, Patrick?
Yes. We have, and that's actually a good segue to talk a little bit about our intake services. So right now we are still providing full services. Our office, unfortunately, is closed. The lobby is closed because of the pandemic and various sort of public health concerns, not only for our staff, but for our clients. But we are providing full services, so people can call us, people, you know, who are deaf or hard of hearing. We have accessibility emails that we shared in our slides earlier, and people who, you know, speak different languages, who are limited English proficient. We provide interpretation services either for staff members, you know, or excuse me, through staff members who speak different languages. So we have staff, you know, our staff, many of our staff members speak Spanish. I speak Mandarin. You know, we have people who speak Cantonese, Russian. And so we provide interpretation services, you know, that way. Or if somebody is, you know, speaks a language who nobody on our staff speaks with enough proficiency or fluency to interpret or translate, then we use a phone interpretation service that we contract with. And basically, you know, we'll get a phone interpreter on the line. They are bound by the same rule or similar confidentiality rules that we are. And we'll have an interpreter allow us to communicate with our clients and allow us to provide the same level of service that we would to a client who speaks English.
Great. Thank you. If you know, I think these are all the questions that we have. We'll wait a little bit in case somebody, you know, has anything else to ask. I think Yeah, I think, you know, that's about it. We want to thank you so much, Patrick Ting and Hadley Rood. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Saturday. I know how busy already the week is for you, and thank you for taking the time to come and present for us today. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys on behalf of MAS-SSF and my Al-Afia for Seniors team. Thank you so much.
Well, again, thank you for having us, and you know we're happy to be here, and feel free, you know, for folks who are on this presentation or you know, folks who you interact with, and you know, folks throughout the community, if they have legal issues or questions, you know, go ahead and feel, you know, they can call us, and if we can advise or assist them, great, and even if we can't, you know, we try to refer folks over to either a lawyer referral service or other agencies that might be able to assist. So we encourage folks to give us a call, and obviously right now a lot of people have legal questions and legal issues, and so, you know, we're a little bit slammed, as we always are, but we try to talk to as many people as possible, you know, during a particular day. So we look forward to speaking with folks.
Thank you. The rest of our program, we'll be doing a raffle for all the seniors. The only seniors are eligible to win. So I will, Patrick and Hadley, you're welcome to stay or leave, but we're thank you so much. But you're welcome to hang around if you want. So our seniors that I see are Brother Mukhtar, and then MA5, I don't know who that is. So that brother, I see you. You'd be one of our seniors, and then we have Brother Abdul Ghani, Sister Munira,
and Muhammad. My name is Muhammad.
Brother Muhammad, Brother Abdul Razak, and I don't know who Gawar is.
You can see me right now. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Is that Brother Muhammad?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I was trying to get on video, but it was not getting through. That's why I got it right now.
So if you're a senior and I haven't said your name, please let me know, because I don't want you to miss out on this. Aziza, at this point, actually, I would also like to acknowledge my senior Al-Afia for Seniors committee team. If you can all raise your hands. Maha Eid, Naz, Sabah Naz, Aziza Ahmed, Rusul, where are you? Rusul, we don't see you. And then Gulshan. Unfortunately, Gulshan was not feeling well today, so she could not attend this presentation today. So what Aziza is going to do is put all your names in a raffle, and we're going to pull a raffle ticket. We're going to pull two raffle tickets. And if you're a winner, please give us your email in the chat so we can email the ticket, email the winning ticket, email the gift card to you. It'll be a $20 Target gift card. So Aziza.
Assalamu alaikum. Anju, Rashida was there till the end and then she left.
You have to be, unfortunately, you have to be present to win.
Okay, so the first one is Gawar.
Can you please unmute? I don't know who Gawar is. Brother Abdul Qadir, do you know?
Probably not a senior.
Is that Muhammad's iPhone? Was he Gawar or no?
Sorry?
Whose name was Gawar?
No, I'm actually not sure who that is either. Not sure if they're from MCF.
Yeah, and he's not on the participant list anymore. Okay, I'll pick another one.
Okay.
Munira.
Okay, so Munira, please give us your email address in the chat. And the second one, Aziza?
Muhammad Qadir.
Muhammad Qadir, okay.
Then your dad will get.
Muhammad Qadir is not a senior.
He's not a senior.
His grade will
He's not
there.
eligible.
Okay, it's Mukhtar Saab.
Okay, thank you, Ji. Thank you, Riza. Thank you, Maha. Nice to
Welcome.
all
Thank
of
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are planning to have these events once a month, inshallah, and we're trying to make them fun. Next time, inshallah, we'll do a raffle also. And if you have any suggestions, we're always open to suggestions. And if there's anything else that you would like to hear that is of interest to you, please send it our way. So we really, really thank you. Does anybody else have anything to share?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Especially
man. Bye.
MAS
God
and
bless you
SSF.
all.
Sister Ziza, Sister Maha, and Sister Anyam, and all of you. We are happy to see you.
We are
Thank
ready
you very
to.
much. And especially you are serving seniors and seniors of MCF.
Yes,
This is
Of
great.
course.
we miss you all.
Our
very much.
pleasure.
We miss seeing you.
Thank you very much. God bless you all for organizing this. And
Thank
God
you.
bless you
Take
all.
care.
Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
Please let your other community members, other friends know that we will be providing, we'll try our best to provide translation. So if people don't speak English, we will try to have other languages, but we will inshallah have at least Urdu and Arabic translation. So please let everybody know so they don't think that we're only doing these in English.
Thank you very much, Sister Anyam, and I can also translate in Arabic, English, and Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and English.
MashaAllah.
So sometimes
Thank you, Maha. Arabic shoya. Alhamdulillah.
that's wonderful. Maybe we might take you up on your offer. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
But if
And that is
anybody,
free.
Yeah.
This is also free.
if anyone would like to share something about how they're doing during COVID, during the lockdown, what's happening, how are you dealing with it? If anybody would like to share that. Brother Mukhtar, we can start with you.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. We have two meetings, seniors meeting of MCF, and Brother Abdul Razak is here. If can he narrate more elaborately, it is up to him. But anyhow, thank you for offering me. So I take this opportunity, and especially 2 days, that is Tuesday and Thursday. We all seniors especially, and our seniors from abroad also. And one senior who joined us from Haram, Mecca, and it is our good luck. He is from there. So, and one is Brother Ibrahim is from LA. He is our founding father, you can say, founding senior of MCF. But anyhow, it is our pleasure to see our senior brothers on Tuesday. We gossip each other, and also our one brother Arif, who reads Rahikul Maktoum, the best book of Sirah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And also some Kutabat from Maulana and on those days, and also Brother Ibrahim is a doctor, and he was serving in Saudi Arabia, Libya, Germany, England, and then here. So he also guides us how to maintain our good health. And also we have religious scholars, and generally some also post some good videos, and they show that in certain area in Pakistan there is a law that people should marry 2, 3, or 4. So they are trying to go there.
Is that a good law?
At the end of Thursday, we read Quran, mashallah, tafsir and hadith, and Sheikh Imam Amar also comes, and also he gives us a lecture about Surah Al-Baqarah, tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, and Alhamdulillah. And the rest of the days with the family and the chatting, and thanks to WhatsApp, we discuss with our family where they are. And may Lord bless everyone with good health, and may Allah save us and protect all the human beings from this COVID-19. And thank you very much for giving me the time.
Sister Munira, can you please put in your email in the chat?
Brother Abdul Razak, we didn't hear your voice today.
Anju, I think you have my email address, right?
Okay, we will use that.
Thank you, Annie.
Can we unmute Uncle Abdul Razak?
Yes, unmute him. Might be.
He's unmuted.
I see him.
Oh no, Brother Abdul Razak is not.
No.
Okay, now he's unmuted.
Hello, hello,
Yes,
hello.
yes.
I am
We are
here.
listening.
Hello, I'm here. I'm hearing you.
Yes.
Hello,
I'm. Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Abdul Razak.
No, the program is very good. Presentation is very good. Put many of our people put many questions, good, useful to us. You did a good program. We wish to see many more such programs in future. And I thank all the SSF, MAS-SSF, and your team for organizing this. So it's a very good program.
Thank you, brother. Does anybody else have anything else? Anything to say, anything to add, anything to share, any jokes, anything?
Yes, thank you. There was a lot of good information today. Very useful.
Okay, if not, then I would like to thank everybody for coming, and I would like to end, we will end this presentation at this time.
Okay.
I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good day. Stay safe.
Thank you, especially MAS and LSNC. Thank you very much, please.
Thank you for attending.
Everybody. Thank you. Shukran, shukriya.
Ma salama.
Ma salama.